All right, let's dive in. Today we're tackling something pretty profound. Letting go, the Stoic way. It's all about how this ancient philosophy can help us, well, navigate this crazy thing called life. All the chaos and stress.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got a whole bunch of sources ready to unpack. We're going to explore those core Stoic principles.
But more importantly, right, how can we actually use this stuff? Not just the theory, but how to apply it, how to find a little more peace, a little more control, even when things feel, well, out of control.
Exactly.
So, okay, before we get all how to, let's start with the basics. What exactly is Stoicism? Because I think a lot of people hear Stoic and they picture like a robot, right?
Yeah.
Someone suppressing all their emotions.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's a super common misconception. Stoicism, it's not about becoming emotionless. It's more about understanding and mastering your emotions. Zeno of Citium, he's the guy who founded this whole school of thought way back in 300 BCE.
Ancient wisdom for modern problems.
Right. And he believed that it wasn't about eliminating feelings altogether, but actually about learning how to respond to them in a way that gives us power, gives us control.
So not suppressing, but responding strategically. Makes sense. And it seems like this whole idea of control is like central to Stoicism. Where do we even begin to figure out what we can and can't control? That seems like step one.
You've hit the nail on the head. It's called the dichotomy of control. The Stoics, they were really meticulous about categorizing what falls under our control, things like our thoughts, our actions, our judgments, and what's outside of it, stuff like external events or what other people think about us.
Oh, that's a tough one. Other people's opinions. Okay, I think I'm starting to get this. Well, let's make this real, you know? Let's say I'm working on this project, I'm pouring my heart and soul into it. I can control how much effort I put in, but I can't guarantee it'll be a success. That's just reality, right?
Absolutely. I mean, the success of your project could depend on a million things outside your control, like the market, trends, your client's preferences. Yeah, you get it. And Stoicism encourages us to really hone in on what we can directly influence, where we can put our energy where it actually makes a difference.
This reminds me of that quote by Epictetus. Some things are up to us and some things are not up to us. Always love that one. So basically, if we're pouring energy into things we can't actually control, that's when we run into trouble, right?
Exactly. That's where the art of letting go comes into play. It's not about giving up on our goals, not at all. It's about accepting that some outcomes are simply beyond our grasp. And Stoicism teaches us to actually surrender to that reality, not fight it.
So it's about getting comfortable with uncertainty.
Yeah.
I can see how that could be so incredibly freeing. No more stressing about every little thing.
It is. And that's where the real power of Stoicism lies. Imagine being able to navigate all the ups and downs of life without getting swept away by things you can't control. That's the kind of peace Stoicism offers.
Yeah, sounds amazing. But I mean, how do we even get there? How do we actually DO this whole letting go thing? Where do we even begin?
Well, first things first. It's got to start with really understanding that life, it's temporary, it's transient. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, also a Stoic philosopher, he said, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think.
Wow, okay, that's pretty intense. But I see his point. I mean, if we truly grasped how impermanent everything is, wouldn't we be like way more motivated to focus on what really matters? To stop sweating the small stuff?
Absolutely. And it encourages us to detach from things that won't last, things like material possessions or fleeting pleasures, and instead shift our focus to experiences, relationships, pursuing virtue, the things that actually enrich our lives.
So it's not about the stuff, it's about what gives life meaning, what makes it all worthwhile, not getting caught up in those distractions that keep us from what's important.
It's about aligning your actions with what really matters in the grand scheme of things. It's a perspective shift, but the payoff is huge.
So we're not just talking about letting go of tangible things, right? But also those mindsets, those attachments that are holding us back. That stuff we cling to that just causes suffering.
You got it. It's about recognizing those patterns and making a conscious choice to loosen that grip, to let go.
Okay, this is making a lot of sense. But life isn't always sunshine and rainbows, right? How do the Stoics approach those inevitable negative events, the curveballs that make you want to just scream into a pillow?
That's where this idea of reframing comes in. The Stoics, they believe that events themselves are actually neutral. It's our judgment that labels them as good or bad.
Okay, so if I miss my flight, it's not inherently bad, it's just a missed flight.
Exactly. It's our reaction to that missed flight that determines our experience. Do we go into full-on panic mode, let it ruin our entire day, or do we accept it as an inconvenience and adapt?
Seneca, another Stoic heavyweight, he said, "We
Mm.
suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Starting to see how powerful our perception really is.
It's incredibly powerful. By reframing how we view challenging situations, we can actually reduce the suffering we experience. And that's huge.
Yeah, it sounds simple in theory, but I imagine it takes some serious practice. Were there like specific techniques the Stoics used to do this whole reframing thing?
Absolutely. One technique is called cognitive distancing. It's about taking a step back from the situation, like you're an observer, and just noticing your thoughts and emotions without judgment. Another is challenging those negative thoughts. Are they really true? Are there other ways to look at this situation?
So instead of getting totally swept up in the emotion, you create some space to actually assess the situation objectively, almost like you're talking yourself down from a ledge.
Exactly. And by consciously choosing how we perceive and respond to those events, we gain this sense of control over our experience, even when things totally go sideways.
This makes me think about how often we get stuck in those negative thought patterns. We tell ourselves the same stories over and over, reinforcing those negative beliefs. Maybe Stoicism can help break free from that.
You're right on track. Stoicism can be a powerful tool for challenging those ingrained patterns. It helps cultivate a more positive, resilient mindset.
Okay, I see how all this fits together now, but let's be honest, some things are just hard, full stop. Losing a loved one, dealing with a serious illness, that kind of pain, how can you possibly reframe that?
Absolutely. Those are situations that are incredibly challenging. And it's so important to acknowledge the very real grief and pain that come with those experiences. Stoicism isn't about suppressing those emotions.
So it's not about pretending everything's okay when it's clearly not.
No way. It's
Mm.
more about navigating those difficult emotions, with strength,
Yeah.
finding ways to move forward with grace and resilience, because you can.
Yeah, I'm sensing a theme here, this idea of finding strength amidst adversity.
Mm.
But choosing to embrace discomfort, I mean, that sounds counterintuitive. Who wants to be uncomfortable?
It might seem that way. But the Stoics, they had this practice called voluntary discomfort. They'd intentionally put themselves through tough situations, fasting, sleeping on the floor, all that stuff, to build mental toughness and appreciate what they had.
So it's like building up a tolerance for being uncomfortable so you're less thrown off when those inevitable challenges pop up, kind of like training for a marathon, but for your mind.
Exactly. And by intentionally exposing ourselves to discomfort, we weaken that attachment to comfort, to luxury. It makes us less dependent on external things for our happiness, more in control of our own well-being.
Okay, that makes sense. The logic's there.
Okay.
But cold showers, I'm not sure I'm ready for that level of stoicism just yet. But I am curious what's actually happening in our minds when we do this voluntary discomfort thing.
Well, a few key things are happening. First, it strengthens our willpower. By overcoming these little discomforts, we're basically proving to ourselves that we can handle challenges. Second, it helps us detach from those material comforts. We prove we can be content without them, so they have less power over us. And third, it fosters gratitude. When we choose to experience discomfort, we gain a new appreciation for the stuff we often take for granted.
So it's a mental shift. By embracing discomfort, we train ourselves to find contentment and strength no matter what's happening around us.
You got it. It's about shifting our focus from what we lack to what we already have. And that brings us to another core Stoic principle, gratitude.
Ah, gratitude. It makes sense that it would play a big role in letting go, shifting that perspective from what's missing to what we already have.
Right. Marcus Aurelius, he wrote, "Do not indulge in dreams of having what you do not have, but reckon up the chief of the blessings you do possess." Just that simple act of focusing on what we're grateful for can completely change how we see the world.
It's like that saying, gratitude turns what we have into enough. So easy to get caught up in wanting more, more, more.
Yeah.
But maybe true contentment comes from appreciating what we already have.
Exactly. And the Stoics, they weren't just about abstract philosophizing. They were all about practical application, living it out.
That's what's so great about Stoicism. It's not just about thinking differently, it's about taking action. And speaking of action, our source material actually lays out some specific steps for incorporating this whole letting go thing into our daily lives. So what's the game plan?
All right, step one is something you can easily fit into your routine daily reflection. Whether it's journaling, meditation, or just taking a few minutes each day to pause, examine your thoughts and emotions.
A mental check-in.
Exactly. It's a chance to process your experiences, see if you're clinging to any unhealthy attachments, and redirect your energy to what you can control.
Okay, starting the day by clearing out the mental clutter before the chaos hits. I like it. What's next?
Okay, this one might sound a bit, shall we say, intense, It's called memento mori, which basically means remember death.
Whoa. Contemplating our own mortality. Not exactly your typical self-help advice. But I'm intrigued. Why this focus on death?
It's not about being morbid or anything like that. The Stoics used this as a way to appreciate how precious life is. By reflecting on the fact that our time is limited, we gain a whole new perspective on what really matters.
So it's a reminder to make the most of the time we have, right? Not waste it on things that don't truly matter.
Exactly. It's a powerful antidote to procrastination and complacency. Think about it. If you knew your time was limited, what would you prioritize differently? What dreams would you finally go after?
I know, I'd worry less about what other people think and just go for it. So is there more to this memento mori thing? How else can we use it in our lives?
Well, it can also help you let go of those petty grievances. I mean, if life is fleeting, why waste energy on anger and resentment? It can also help you cultivate a deeper sense of gratitude for each moment.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this seemingly morbid practice can actually be pretty life-affirming, a real wake-up call.
It's all about shifting your perspective, seeing things from a different angle.
So we've got daily reflection, contemplating death. What's next in this Stoic toolkit for letting go?
All right, step number 3 is focusing on your virtues. The Stoics were really big on living a virtuous life, and they had these 4 cardinal virtues: wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance.
Sounds like a pretty solid foundation for making good choices.
Mm-hmm.
But how do these virtues actually guide our actions in everyday life? How do we put them into practice?
Well, let's take wisdom, for example. It's about seeking knowledge and understanding, making decisions based on what's wise, not just getting swept away by emotions or what other people are doing.
So before you react impulsively, take a beat. Ask yourself, what's the wisest choice here?
Exactly. And then you've got justice, which is all about fairness, honesty, and treating people with respect, even when they might not deserve it. Courage is about facing challenges head on, whether those challenges are physical, emotional, or moral. And temperance is about moderation and self-control, not going overboard with anything that could be harmful.
Yeah, these virtues sound like a solid moral compass. Help us navigate those tricky decision-making moments, already feeling more empowered just hearing about them.
They are powerful tools for navigating life and staying true to your values, living authentically.
All right, on to step number 4. What else is on this journey of letting go? What's the next big hurdle?
All right, this one's a biggie: letting go of outcomes. The Stoics believed in putting in the effort, doing your best in every situation, but then surrendering attachment to the results.
Oh, okay, that sounds tough. I mean, we're so conditioned to focus on results, especially in our culture. How do we detach from that need to control the outcome?
It starts with understanding that we can control our actions, but not always the results of those actions. Like, you can plant a seed, but you can't force it to grow.
Yeah, makes sense. So if I put in the work to prepare for a presentation, I can't guarantee everyone will love it, but I can be confident that I did my best.
Exactly. And by focusing on what we can control, we free ourselves from all that anxiety and disappointment that comes from clinging to specific outcomes. We give ourselves a break.
Yeah, it's like that serenity prayer, right? Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference.
That's a perfect analogy.
All right, what's the final piece of this Stoic guide to letting go? What's the last step?
The 5th and final step is all about who you surround yourself with. Surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals. The company we keep can have a huge impact on our mindset, on how well we handle challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're constantly surrounded by negativity and drama, it's got to be harder to find that inner peace we've been talking about.
Exactly. The Stoics, they believe that spending time with people who share our values, who inspire us to be better versions of ourselves, that's incredibly supportive for growth.
So it's not just about personal growth, but finding your tribe, the people who get it, who support you.
It's about building a community, a support system that keeps you accountable and helps you face challenges with more resilience. It makes all the difference.
It sounds like we're talking about finding people who are also on this journey of letting go, who get what we're talking about.
Exactly. We all need people who understand and support us, who get where we're coming from.
So we've covered the philosophy, the practices, the actual steps. But I have to ask, what are the real tangible benefits of incorporating this into our lives? Does letting go actually lead to a happier, more fulfilling life? Is that what we're getting at here?
I mean, that's the goal, right? And while we can't directly control happiness, the Stoics believe that aligning ourselves with virtue, focusing on what's within our control that creates the conditions for a truly fulfilling life.
So it's not about chasing happiness. It's about cultivating the qualities and habits that lead to a more joyful, more meaningful existence. Sounds like a pretty good deal.
You got it.
Okay, so we've talked the talk. But what does a life transformed by these principles actually look and feel like? What does that actually look like on the ground?
Imagine waking up each day with a sense of inner peace, knowing you've got the tools to handle whatever comes your way.
Inner peace. That sounds pretty amazing. What else?
Imagine feeling less reactive to stress, not sweating the small stuff. You're able to take things in stride, knowing you have the power to choose how you respond. You're in the driver's seat.
Yeah, it's like a weight has been lifted. You're not carrying all those burdens of stuff you can't control.
Yeah.
Frees up a lot of energy, right?
Absolutely. You can channel that energy into what really matters.
Right.
And that clarity, that focus, it allows you to pursue your passions, your goals, your relationships with a renewed sense of purpose. You're not held back anymore.
This is starting to sound a lot like that intentional living we talk about so much on the show. Living in line with your values, making conscious choices about how you spend your time and energy.
It is. Letting go frees you from the distractions and anxieties that keep you from truly living your best life. It's about getting out of your own way.
Makes you realize how much mental energy we waste on things that don't even matter. It's exhausting.
It's true. And when we let go of those burdens, we create space for creativity, for growth, for deeper connections. We open up possibilities.
You also mentioned freedom from comparisons earlier. How does that fit in with letting go?
When we're constantly comparing ourselves to others, we're basically saying that our self-worth depends on their stuff, their achievements, their apparent happiness. And that's a recipe for feeling terrible.
Because there's always going to be someone who has more, does more, seems to have it all figured out.
Exactly. Letting go means letting go of those comparisons, recognizing that your journey is unique and valid. It's about celebrating your own progress, your own growth, and your own unique contribution to the world.
That's such a powerful thought. Giving yourself permission to define success on your own terms, not based on anyone else's standards or expectations.
And exactly. That's where the real freedom of Stoicism lies, in that self-acceptance.
I gotta say, this deep dive has really changed how I think about being Stoic. I used to picture someone just, suppressing emotions, toughing it out, but now I see it's so much more than that. It's about embracing life fully, but with wisdom.
It is. It's about understanding our emotions, getting our minds right, and living a life that aligns with our values. It's a philosophy, yeah, but it's also a toolkit for navigating the ups and downs with more resilience, with wisdom.
And it all starts with letting go. Letting go of what's no longer serving us.
Indeed. But letting go of what, you ask? Well, that's the question for you, dear listener. That's for you to figure out. If you could let go of just one thing holding you back right now, what would it be?
Think about it. Is it a limiting belief that's got you stuck? A fear that's keeping you playing small? Maybe some resentment that's weighing you down?
What if you could just release that burden? Imagine the possibilities. What would you be capable of? What doors would open?
That's something to really sit with, isn't it? The power of letting go. It's not always easy, but man, is it worth it.
So much of what we've talked about today boils down to this: shifting our perspective. It's like changing the lens through which we view the world. And Stoicism gives us the tools to do just that.
It's about choosing how we respond to life's curveballs, choosing freedom over fear, choosing peace over turmoil.
And what strikes me is that Stoicism, it's not just a set of ideas, it's a way of being. It's woven into the fabric of your life.
It's about living with intention, making choices that reflect our values, and facing those inevitable challenges with strength and wisdom.
And we don't have to do it alone. Find your people, your tribe. Surround yourself with those who inspire you, support you, and challenge you to grow.
Because we all have that capacity for growth, that potential for transformation. It's within each of us.
We all have that power to let go of what's no longer serving us and embrace a life that's more meaningful, more fulfilling, a life that reflects our true potential.
So well said. And on that note, dear listener, we'll leave you with this final thought. What if the greatest adventure isn't about conquering the world out there, but about conquering the world within?
Mastering our minds, letting go of what holds us back, and becoming the best versions of ourselves. That's the real journey, isn't it?
It is. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Stoicism and the art of letting go. We hope you've gained some valuable insights today.
And that you're feeling inspired to create a life that truly reflects your highest potential.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep letting go.
Yeah, those show notes will have you covered. But even right now, think about, what really stood out to you today, what resonated.
What really clicked? Was it that idea of, focusing on what's actually in our control? Or maybe the power of reframing those negative thoughts? That's always a big one for me.
Or maybe it was that whole memento mori thing. It really makes you think about how you're spending your time, doesn't it? Makes you want to make it count.
Because it's limited, right? We've only got so much.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of Stoicism. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. It's more like, a buffet. You sample the ideas, see what works for you, what nourishes your mind, what helps you navigate life with a little more grace.
Yeah, take what you need, leave the rest. And the amazing thing is, even if you just pick up one little nugget of wisdom from this whole deep dive, it can make a huge difference.
It really can. Small changes can create those ripple effects. Maybe you start with, 5 minutes of reflection each day.
Yeah, just a little mental check-in. Or, hey, maybe you decide to challenge yourself with a little bit of that voluntary discomfort we talked about.
Right.
Don't worry, you don't have to jump into a freezing cold shower just yet.
Start small. Pick one area where you'd like to let go of something that's not serving you anymore. Something you can release.
Maybe it's that grudge you've been hanging on to, or that fear of failing that's keeping you from going after what you really want.
Whatever it is, remember, letting go, it's not weak. It actually takes a lot of courage. It's choosing freedom over fear, peace over all that inner turmoil.
Yeah, I love that. And what really strikes me about Stoicism is that it's not just a philosophy, it's a way of life. It's how you approach everything.
It is. It's about being intentional, making sure your actions match your values, facing whatever life throws at you with strength and, wisdom, that ancient wisdom we keep coming back to.
And remember, we don't have to do this alone. Find your people, your support system, the ones who inspire you, who get it.
We all have that capacity for growth. We all have the power to let go and create a life that's truly meaningful, a life that's aligned with who we are deep down.
You said it perfectly. And on that note, dear listener, we'll leave you with this. What if the greatest adventure isn't about conquering the external world, but about conquering ourselves?
Think about that. Mastering our own minds, letting go of what's holding us back and stepping into our full potential, that's the real challenge, isn't it? And the real reward.
It really is. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We hope you found it valuable, inspiring.
And that you're feeling ready to create a life that truly reflects your best self.
Until next time, keep seeking, keep growing, and keep letting go.